This is the Bar Steward's Enquiry.
Right? You're talking absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
In what way?
You were an underachiever in life. I saved your bacon one time. You were gone.
You handled that well. I couldn't save you. But you did the right thing.
But that's why you don't know anything about racing, John.
I didn't say I do.
Right?
I'm saying that...
What have you contributed to racing? You're one of these take-out merchants. Take out all you can.
And a big warm welcome to the Bar Steward's Enquiry Weekend Podcast. And joining me this evening to chew the fat and give you some, hopefully some big winners this weekend are John Lang and Andy Richmond. Good evening, chaps.
Good evening.
Good evening, John. Yes, good evening, John and Andy. Andy, of course, the Naps King at the moment and head of the table, and looks to have a very good lead going into the autumn campaign.
I'm not sure because I couldn't see. I failed to listen last week. A bit remiss of me, but I was very, very busy researching my NFL previews for the season, and I couldn't find what the naps were last week.
Andy, I didn't listen.
Was it a good week or bad week, chaps?
Well, last week, I don't think John had a winner. Me and Quentin wipes our nose, I think, with Fairy Cross.
I'm always worried with that Franks boy. You know, I thought he's going to come up with something.
Yeah, he's sort of in transit at the moment. That's why he's not on many shows, but he's going to do a couple. He's going to do a couple next week. Yeah, so it could be interesting end. And I've got some big ones. When
is the end?
It's the November Handicap.
Oh right, okay. So we got a while to go yet.
Yeah, so it's the autumn campaign now. We're in the final.
I might have to dig one out from my trip to Laytown next week.
Yeah. This is a depressing period for me and John because we know that it's the last leg of the flat season, and we know that
the twig offers.
Hurdles and twig offers are all
coming. September, man, for punting.
I do. The not so much the Donny meeting, but yeah, I do like September, October. It's something about it. The races like the Phillies Mile, there's lots of good races I enjoy punting on in September, October. So yeah.
You've not mentioned the best one of the lot. It's my favourite flat race of the year. Well, probably apart from the Melrose and the Ebor, is the Zarowich. What a super race.
Yeah, it is. Like I say, there's certainly plenty of fantastic racing to come. Right, on with our best bets then for the weekend, and third best. Andy, I'm coming to you first.
Right, I'm going to just have a 1 pointer on one in a nursery, which is unusual for me, but I think the form of this works out. It might actually, hopefully, get a form boost. Later in the programme. I'm going to the 235 at the Queen's HQ. I'm going to the Dirty Betty's HQ at Ascot, and I'm going to go Courageous Knight of Mr. Appleby's, and he ran a really good race when he was third of 14 last time out at York, and by the time we got to the it's something I wrote here, so I'll read it out. By the time we reached the 7 furlong nursery on Thursday, it looked to be a move by the riders to keep away from the far rail that had been heavily raced on and favoured in preceding events. The ground now looked a little cut up, and a fresher surface would be found in the middle on the near side of the track, favouring those drawn higher amongst the higher numbers. That proved to be the case with the winner Kaema, and that was the one I was referring to because that one actually runs in the Group 3 Sirenia later on. So if this Courageous Knight runs well, then that should be a flag for Kaema. Now she raced down the centre of the track, chased home by another centre track runner in Indian Dream, another runner I'm very keen on, who's well worth keeping in mind for a nursery. Therefore, it was the third home Courageous Knight who deserves to be marked up and noted. The Dolphin runner has been gilded since his Epsom maiden win, and also wearing cheek pieces for the first time, certainly had more behind and in front of him at around the 3 furlong pole, and then made his challenge on the inside of the track with the jockey James Doyle, also dropping his whip. According to the sectionals, despite racing away from the main pace and on the worst of the ground, worst inverted commas, Courageous Knight still recorded a faster final 3 furlongs than the 2 that beat him. There was plenty to like about the overall look of the race, and I suspect several winners will emerge from it despite the race not having quite the depth of previous years. For mark of 93 here, Courageous Knight ought to be able to cope with that perch in future nurseries, although he would benefit from stepped up to a mile when he's next seen. They haven't done that, but I still think he's off a decent mark. He's actually off 95 tomorrow. Rose Prick looks a danger, but I do think Courageous Knight should give that form, and hopefully will give that York form a little bit of a boost, and Kaima, who's on the all-weather in the Group 3, will give it a boost later. So 1 point there. I think it's only around about, there weren't many people priced up, but I think it's around a 3-to-1 chance.
A very, very good case, Andy. 3-to-1 with Billy Mountains for your 1 point win. And a solid case made there for that horse, Courageous Knight at Ascot in the 235. John, coming to you for your 1 pointer.
Right, this is in the 5:30 at Ascot, and it is When the Dealing's Done. This one was well fancied off 99 at York a year ago. Yes. I think you might remember, Lee, you put this up
yes.
Very bet.
Yeah.
But things haven't really gone right since. He got a bit lost in traffic that day. And some of his efforts since then have been a little bit iffy on the face of it. But I think he's just one of these horses that gets a little bit lost if he comes off it early on. And I think you need a jockey with a bit of patience and a bit give the horse a bit of guidance and just keep him on it as long as possible. And I think you might see a different sort of animal. There was hints of a return to form last time, albeit in a small field. And it's hard to sort of take that type of form into a race like this. But closer examination of his other runs would indicate that he retains ability. He runs off 90 here. So it's hard to deny he's well treated when he's so well fancied at York of 99. The course here ought to suit because the jockey ought to be able to keep him on it as long as possible. I think that the jockey's an excellent booking as well. He'll let the horse find himself without badgering him. So I'm going 1 point win.
Good stuff, yeah. Mr. Tudhope on board, 9-2 with the Mountains and Denise for John to kick him off. He loves kicking off with Denise for his first bet. 1 point win for John.
Like kicking off with Denise, really.
Indeed, yes, we know. Right, mine goes in the 251 at Thirsk. I mentioned this on a sermon after the run in the Convivial. 3 Yorkshiremen, Richard Fahey, Oisin-Orr, who's a very, very, very good jockey indeed. Love Oisin-Orr. 3 Yorkshiremen got no sort of run in the Convivial, shaped really well. From a very poor draw, trap 17, no good, and basically was always sort of struggling for room, and jockey even come back and said denied a clear run, did old Frank Spencer, but yeah, he did shape very well. He shaped very well on debut at Chester when behind Frankness, sort of like green as grass, slowly away, never in the race, but finishing off nicely. I do think this horse is quite smart, and I said that on the side. I think you'll probably see around £10 improvement for a clean trip, which puts him on about 85, which will make him very tough in this. Now, Carl Burke's got a newcomer in Electric Eyes, a Siuni fillet that's well entered in the Rockfell. So obviously, I'll be honest, I haven't got an angle on that. I do not have information on that horse, whether she's obviously entered in the Rockfell. You think she's quite useful, but still at the prices at 7-2 with Denise Kurtz, I'm willing to take the chance and the plunge that 3 Yorkshiremen can get the job done in a race. I think he'll beat Tim's. That's the one that's favourite at 5-2. Spirit of Applause. I'll be disappointed if 3 Yorkshiremen doesn't beat Tim's. Of course, on our show we've 2 Yorkshiremen and a Lancastrian. Or no, actually, we've got an Arsenal fan actually, a Gooner, a Londoner in Andy Richmond, but he now lives in Lancashire. But anyway, 3 Yorkshiremen tomorrow for me. 1 point win, 7-2 with Denise. So that's round 1 done. John, I'm going to let you kick off with round 2.
Right, I'm a bit of a fiddle about here with this one. This is in the September Stakes, the 2-5 at Kempton. And I'm actually going to do Well, one of Neville's specials actually a split stake wanker in bet. And I'll tell you for why, because I think there's 2 bits of value here. The first one would be Third Realm. This one takes a little diving class after running a Group 1 in France. This is a deep enough race for the grade anyway, so you maybe wouldn't say that offsets it entirely, but I think this is probably more in his bag. I think they found a fair race for him, mate, because I don't think many of these are at the best over 12 furlongs. Dubai Honour's the best horse in the race. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I'd rather have seen him on turf with some cut than having his first try on the all-weather when it's a bit of a moot point what sort of nick he might be in after 2 trips to York on ground quicker than he might have liked. You know, I thought he looked a bit pissed off with himself last time at York, and I'm also a bit wary of horses like that. I think if they've had 2 runs on ground faster than they want, I think they might just hold a bit back. And as I say, I'm not entirely sure he wants this trip. Solid Stone certainly doesn't want a yard further than this. Tasman Bay might have been of interest, but he's been shit this year, really, and Mark Todd might be struggling to get him right now. He can't snap branches off trees and wallop his horses with it. Mostard stopped as though he was shot last time at HQ. Gear Up's facing a lot faster horses than he did when he had a very, very soft time of it on the front end at Leopardstown. And that leaves Calling the Wind, who I toyed with putting in, but Third Round thumped him at Goodwood. And our friend's horse, Universal Order, who ought to get this run to suit with Gear Up pressing on the front end. He stays the trip well. He's got good all-weather for him. So I'm happy to split stakes on those 2, Universal Order and Third Realm.
No messing from John, though. Big prices, 8-1 Third Realm with Betfair Sportsbook, 1 point win, and 1 point win Universal Order. At a pony with Betfair and Paddy Power, 25-1 Universal Order. Good stuff, John. Right, my second best. Very confident. 3:45 at Ascot. It's my go-to, man. The shirt. Layakel. 11-2 available with Denise, Bet Victor, Coral, Ladbrokes. This should be clear favourite. Make no mistake. I cannot hide my confidence for this. 87 is a complete rick in terms of handicapping. Not that the handicapper has made a mistake, because it's typical shirt planning. Make the horse look less sort of, as good as it is. And 2 runs over a mile, which were totally inadequate. And you could see, and even when it was 5 to 6 favourite, it wasn't that off at Windsor. I mean, it basically missed the kick. That's the problem. He gets a little bit left at the start, a little bit, but I'm not so bothered, obviously, at this trip now over a mile and a half at Ascot. It's just, he does kind of just blow the start a bit. And he was not knocked about at Windsor. Then last time out at Seoul, if anyone watched the performance, I mean, it was absolutely, it hosed him. And I know the second in chimed is not the most genuine. I know this. And we'll probably finish second to anything. But nevertheless, if anyone watched the performance, this was a stop the contest. It was a long way out. And for me, this horse is a lot better than 87. I'm pitching this horse in the high 90s. So with Adam Farragher's claim, which is, he's become a very useful jockey now, 5 off, 8 stone 5. It's going to be running loose. This I can't hide my confidence. It's how this isn't favourite is beyond me. For me, if it gets the breaks and the look, it will win. So you're like, Layakel, 11-2, 2 points win, and yes, I've got one better coming up for the max. But yeah, so ultra confidence from me, 11-2. Get on that. It's a good bet. Andy, coming for your second best.
Right. Well, I said before we started recording that it's one of those days. It's an interesting day's racing, but I found it really tough. So yes. I'm going back to an old favourite, And we were talking again before we started recording about horses who, trainers and horses who tend to run well at Ascot. It seems to be that sort of course. And I'm going to go to the 310, where I could have gone for any one of about 5 or 6 horses, but back for an old favourite, Documenting, who won at Newbury last time out in a small field in a race that really shouldn't have suited him, to be honest with you. And he's having shaped really well in the International the time before that. When he was 5th at 21 over this course and distance, the old Moet and Chandon International Stakes at 40 to 1. It's interesting, they've actually entered him in the Air Gold Cup. He hasn't run over 6 furlongs. It's 2019. He's still got a bit of pace about him. They've got a good young lad on him, Wojciechowski. I think I've got his name right there. Who's been riding quite a lot for the Hannons. Yeah, Alec Wojciechowski, who claims 7. I think Documenting goes well for a lad. He's drawn 11, which I think is in the right place. Having watched all the racing from this afternoon from Ascot, it seemed to be they wanted to be over towards the stands rail. Then that theory got rather blown out of the water by the last race, where they switched and came down the middle. The others I considered in the race were Aratus, who's drawn 1. Horse I really like, but he just doesn't seem to get much luck with the draw. Fresh, who won here last time out. Tactical, you could throw in as well. Still think he's sort of worthy of looking at. There's loads you could look in this, but I think I'm going to bottle out. I do think Documenting, he loves this course. Horses who love this course generally, they tend to run time and time again here. I was looking at the price. I think you can get some extended places on this. I'll have a point each way on Documenting. I think it's just, again, it's a sort of race that's made for him, and he did well to win last time out in a race at Newbury, which really shouldn't have suited him. I think the old boy, I might be doing him a disservice. I mean, he is 9. We've had another 9-year-old win this afternoon, haven't we? With This Is Us.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
In fine form. Kevin Frost has been going well. I like the boy on board. I think the race will be run to suit. He loves the course. It probably, hopefully, sneaks in the frame, and he might just nick it.
So sort of 18 to 1 on 5 places. Paddy Betfair, are you going each way?
That point each way, 5 places, 18s. Yeah, I wouldn't put anyone off that as a little bit of a sort of Saturday. I don't know. I hate calling them fun bets, but in a race where I was really pushed, or races I was really pushed, I thought he was one that you probably couldn't leave out of the equation.
Corking stuff. Interestingly, then I'll kick off the final round with my most confident bet, the 3-pointer. It's in the same race, Andy.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm going for Shining Blue. I've been backing this horse since Thursday. I think this horse, literally, I think if it gets the run of the race, which I'm hoping, I think it will win. The last 2 runs, it had an impossible draw at Goodwood behind Orban. It was drawn absolutely, it wouldn't settle over the mile yet. Last time out, the same at York, a terrible trip under the Sardinian. I thought it was terrible on Shining Blue. Wide, obviously stole 13 because he was widest round the bend coming in.
Didn't he run very keen last time out? Wasn't he really lit up?
Exactly, yeah, very lit up. His first time hood, but I mean, this is a really talented horse. I love the drop back to 7. I love the stand side draw. I love the drop back to 7. It's as if like they've set this horse off and it's like, oh, we'll try and turn him into a miler. He's by Exceed and Excel out of an elusive quality mare. There's nothing in that says 1 mile. Nothing. 0. So the drop back to 7 is a massive plus. We saw how well handicapped he was when he won at Newcastle, beating one of Arian's last 8. They made him 13 to 8 on to win that race off 94. He's off 99. He's a well handicapped horse. I mean, Dusty Bin said earlier in the year that he felt this horse, really should be listed group class. And everything's in his favour. It's a ridiculous 12 to 1 with Ladbrokes and Coral. It will be nothing like that come purse time, as long as we don't get any monsoons in between now and purse time. This horse will go very close to winning. 5 places. I mean, what a luxury. Neil Callan as well. What a bonus. This is a man's ride. This is sorry for sexism, but this is a horse that needs a real firm hold of. And Neil Callan's
good to see Neil back. He's an excellent rider, really. Is.
Yeah, from King Kong, and this is exactly what I wanted. The draws worked out right. I think, like I said, that's where the action will be. We might be completely wrong, but remember the wind switches today. It was sort of like a little bit behind them, so there was no resistance in the faces. Tomorrow it switches; it's in the faces. So well, sort of like maybe a third in the faces. So there's a little wind switch, which means that any front end stuff, which is played quite, it's been paid. It's paid to be quite handy today. That might change tomorrow, and I can see a good pace. Shining Blue getting lovely turn, and that's why I'm so confident. So 1.5 points each way. Wankering the 12-1 with Coral Ladbrokes. Get on. Shining Blue, big bet for me. Okay, John. No, Andy, I'm going to come to you for your max.
Right. Okay. Well, it's a sort of 2 max because I'm going to have a bit of a like John has and like Neville is want to do a little bit of a split stake 3 points. Now it looks like Haydock tomorrow are trying to mirror York's meter, didn't it? Because it looks like the 220 is like the Melrose and the race after it, the Old Borough Cup, is like the Ebor. And although my nap tomorrow would have been, how many split screens are we going to get on our TV tomorrow with 6 meetings in the afternoon? that would have been my 3 pointer. If anybody would like to set a spread on that, I'd definitely be a buyer. But to come back to the this particular race, the 225 there, I'm going to go with 2, and there's 2 I particularly like in the race. One is Adjuvant, who of course was hammered out of sight by our old friend Solcombe, who doesn't run tomorrow because he's had a bad scope. But I still think he ran a good race for Ding Dong Bell last time out in the Melrose. He's been a horse I've sort of liked all year. Looking at him, just looking at his overall form. He won at Newmarket back in July over 12 furlongs. Callum Hutchinson rode him last time out. He did look as though that he needed this sort of extra distance, sort of 1.6 miles will suit him down to the ground. We all know that Solcombe won pretty easily last time out. The horse hasn't run a bad race all season, so he was certainly one that I banged on the old shortlist straight away. And the other one was a horse who actually had caught my eye here before, running over this course and distance, Spaycaster for Rafe Beckett. And I'll just give you a little stat on Rafe here. Rafe's horses in first time blinkers in handicaps, 20 from 90, 22% strike rates, and very good percentage runners beaten figures. A winners above expected of 7.41, and if you'd have backed them, 20 points up. So I do like it when Rafe puts his handicappers and sticks the old blinds on first time out, which he's done with Spaycaster, who was 4th of 14 behind Nathaniel Green over course and distance last time out back in July. Looks like they've kept him back for this. I think he'll do a little bit better. They weren't quite sure of his stamina for his trip on that occasion, but he shaped really well. He was a little bit awkward away, loads to do 3 out, ran on to be nearest at the finish, was pretty promising. I'll have 1.5 points on Adjuvant and Spaycaster each. I think they were sort of 8s and 7s around that sort of mark respectively.
I can tell you it's 9-1 Adjuvant with Denise for Adjuvant.
Take that.
And 1.5 on that, and then Spaycaster 15-2 with Paddy Power, 1.5 on each for Andy. Yeah. So good stuff, Andy. We've split stakes wankering this week.
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's all about profit. Ask Golf Club. It's about the profit. No pot noodles. It's all about the Chinese and the crispy shredded beef. John.
I saw there was plenty of Chinese after York, wasn't there?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've done all right recently.
Crispy prawn bowls a lot.
Yeah. Too right. John.
Right. I know my remaining follower, good evening Golf Club, likes a big price, and this is where we're going for the 3-pointer. We're in the 405 at Haydock. and the 3-point win bet is Sunday Sovereign.
Ooh.
Now, this one's bare form figures of late read a bit filthy, really, but that only tells half the story. Last time out at York, which I think is the key to this race, in the Symphony Sprint, it was ridden by William Buick and had a reasonable draw, but he was switched slightly away from what we felt was the quicker part of the track where the low draws were. And he raced up the middle, and as a result, he lost a bit of ground on the leaders. And he spent most of his time struggling for a bit of racing room. And when he couldn't win, it was pretty easy on him. He was pretty much stood up for the last half furlong. I think for hand riding, he could have finished 2 lengths closer. He's got a smaller field to deal with here. He's only got like 12 rivals. All his better efforts since going handicapping have been in fields up to 12 runners, so I think this will definitely suit him better. He's off 92 here, he's won off 95 and placed twice off 98, so he's not badly in at all. Prior to York, he was midfield in a typical Musselburgh sprint where he failed to improve his initial position, where everything always fails to improve their initial position, so there's nothing worried about that. He got lost in the melee in the dash at Epsom before that. And then he ran a belter at the Dante meeting, second time up, with breaking the neck off 94. If it rains, he copes perfectly well with a cut, and he stays 6 if required. So if it did even get attritional, I wouldn't be concerned. I think this horse is just about at its peak at the moment, and I think quite a few of the rivals aren't. So 3 points win.
Love the confidence. You and Thick Dave have got something going on, John.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're both thick.
Both like, Martin Dwyer, yeah. Them comment on that Indian jockey tape. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, yeah, poor old Dave. You know,
I'll back Dave all the way against that little bastard.
Yeah, absolutely. 16s generally of it. No, I can't gear 18s. It's with some absolute Mickey Mouse for him. I can't even stretch it to that. 16s generally available for John.
That's a perfectly reasonable price about this.
Yeah, for his 3 point and on the nose, no wankering, straight on the nose. Well, you've enjoyed that, folks. I mean, some good selections there, some good reasoning from me, Andy and John. And let's hope we can come out on the right side tomorrow. I'm confident, Andy's confident, John's confident. So let's roar on to the television.
I better get me treble out on your 3 selections, Lee.
Well,
I have to do them now, you see.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he does. It gives me a good feel tomorrow. So I hope we're all bouncing tomorrow night.
Trouble is, I'm going to go back and listen because I can't remember what the first one was.
This is a problem. It's like when I'm discussing TV races. Sometimes I've embarrassed myself by not listening to someone's tip very thoroughly, and Anyway, that's the past. 1:15 Haydock. That's where we go. It's the Ascendant Stakes. It's a listed race. Naval Power 5-2 on. Are we all rowing in with the fab?
Dog's coming in for that.
Not at that price. I'm not.
Nah. Is that pay race for you, Andy? Is the pay coming out?
I tend to try and be a little. If I want to have a bet, and you don't have to, be a little bit creative here. And I'm always starting to. The one thing I would say is where the biggest difference. We don't often get much of a difference of opinion in bookmakers' prices these days, do we? They all copy each other. I think somebody comes up with the original price, or looks at Betfair, and away we go. But nobody has an opinion anymore, like we used to, like that used to happen. But there is a bit of opinion in some of the without favourite markets, and you can see some massive discrepancies in those sometimes. And that's where I'd be looking in this. And there's a couple of interesting ones. I thought I'd be looking to see what price Dancing Magic was in the without favourite market. That might just be a little bit of interest there. If I get something reasonable in that market. But I would say if you try and be a little bit creative sometimes and have a look in those, or with all the place markets on Betfair. You don't have to, you don't always have to think, oh, it's a favourite, we're not going to go with it. But no, I'd probably try and look at maybe Dancing Magic without the favourite. But see what the prices are like, and see if there's any discrepancies, because you do get a few.
I think that's a hell of an attempt at selling the sport to the masses, Andy, on your bet.
It's a better one than the BHA are doing, John, I tell you.
I can see you when one of the managers say it's in the Racing League next year.
Oh, yeah, probably.
You can sell ice to Eskimos, son.
Oh, Jesus. Racing, don't start me off on the Racing League, Jesus.
Okay, 145 race, the Superior Mile. It's a group three race. Interesting betting here, because when the tissues first come out for this, 8 to 11 Reach for the Moon was put in. Now 7 to 4. This is, I mean, John. I'm gonna come to you first, because obviously you know that line very well, of the jelly beans.
Yeah, horrible bastards.
But are you still willing to take it on as a 7 to 4?
I wouldn't care less what price it is, to be honest. I'd always be looking for something to beat one of hers when it comes from that line. You know, I mean, the older they get, the snottier they get, as far as I'm concerned. The problem being in this race, there's some reet out of form sorts. There's other ones that maybe want softer ground. You'd say maybe Marie's Diamond might make a fist of trying to nick it, but you'd probably be struggling to find one to bet, really. But maybe Bayside Boy with the blinkers. But I mean, I don't feel compelled to have a bet, but like, there's just no way in God's green universe I could have a bet on Reach for the Moon at 7 to 4 or 9 to 4 or whatever. You know, I mean, just
no. I know it's your favourite damn line. Andy, thoughts on this now? Reach for the Moon's drifted. Do you have a different view?
They sort of fall into two camps, don't they? You've got horses which have been running in sort of group races and failing to really convince. And I share John's apathy. I think that probably is for Reach for the Moon. I think you can probably put visor, blinkers, a hood, everything else on it, and I still wouldn't want to back it. Bayside Boy, I still think he's got a bit something of the night about him as well. You could argue that he didn't handle the track at Goodwood last time out. The one I kept coming back to, if I had to have a bet, was Dark Shift, who certainly deserves a chance at this level. I know that's not John's favourite trainer in Charles Hills, but Dark Shift, he has, despite his place of residence, shall we say, has actually done pretty well, and I think he deserves a chance. He deserves a step up. The thing is when horses like him, who have been suited by fast-paced handicaps, step up to this level, do they get the same? Will they get the same run of the race? And you could argue with Marie's Diamond in, they'll go quick enough, but you would have liked another one in there. A push, I'd give Dark Shift, because he's a horse I really like, a chance, and he deserves a chance at this level, but I wouldn't be going overboard about it, and I certainly wouldn't be backing either of the front two in the market.
John and Andy, I'm thinking mackerel pate for this race. Marks and Spencer's mackerel pate on some of that little bread that you get. You know,
I'm not sure we can afford Marks and Spencer's anymore. I think we're more oldie now with the cost of prices.
I'd be perfectly happy with dog shit pate rather than having a bent penny on Reach for the Moon. Put it that way.
I think that sums our feelings up there. 220 then, already covered nicely by Andy with Adjuvant and Spearcaster. John, did you have a look at this?
I had a bit of a mosey through the race. I thought Open Champion had a bit of potential about it, but I think he'd been priced accordingly. I think if I had to go with one, I'd probably jump on the side of Spearcaster, despite Mrs. Marquand, who doesn't seem to be making it at the minute. I think the blinkers first time is probably a positive. Rafe could hardly be in better form. I'm not sure if Ralph's in as good a form, but Rafe's certainly kicking along quite nicely. I think 7 to 1 for a little each way wanker should be a fairly safe investment in this.
I like Spearcaster. I think Andy's It's the only one I could see in the race bolting up. Like you look at everything, and like Andy's a little bit adjuvant, like solid, and it's obviously got a good £3 kid on board, but Spearcaster, I think, is the only one I could see. Like you said, the blinds could wake him up, and then that'd be it. He could be curtains for the rest. The other one that I've been backing last twice, Sarson's Risk. He would probably want a little more juice in the ground. So even though I like him going forwards, I think he's improving, and I think he'll improve for this distance and beyond. Even I just think the ground's a bit too lively at Haddock, and we'll maybe watch for the rains for him if we do get some showers tomorrow.
Or Kirkland's watering can.
Well, this is it.
The threat of rain might just hold him off, though. I just think he doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he might be. He might have his hand going towards the watering can, but just hold it off.
Indeed. 255, the Old Borough Cup. Obviously, we're deprived of the interesting 3-year-old angle with the impressive York winner Salcombe, which obviously listeners will know very well by now. So we've not got Salcombe, but it's a very competitive affair. Old boy Yukon Glen must have to come into calculations, I would think, on his last effort for me.
Looks like it's already had a few quid on as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's very well backed, so I'm not saying it's any value. I've got no bets in the race. Chaps, thoughts here?
I'll give you a few stats, actually.
Yes.
Although there's 2 non-runners, Mirando's out and Salcombe's obviously out, and we're down to 13. I don't really like the wide draw over this trip. It is quite hard to overcome. And if Salcombe had won, there's actually no horse had actually won that coming from the Melrose over 0 from 4, and he did have stall 13. You mentioned Yukon Glen. Nobody with 9 stone 1 or more has ever won that. So
that's interesting.
Not convinced about that. Evaluation was desperately unlucky last time out, wasn't he? When he tried to land that bonus in the that Sunday series thing, which is actually one of the very good innovations this year for racing. They were unlucky. Contact's usually consistent enough. The one I was going to give a shout to was Going Gone. He's a little bit of an enigma, this horse, but he's a horse I've sort of keep looking at all the time, and I don't know, he's got, again, I'm not sure he's the easiest, but the second of 10 last time out in one of those god awful Shergar Cup races, he did best of those who was held up in a really steadily run crawl, and I think off a mark of 95 he can win this. He gets on well with Pat Cosgrave, who's ridden him to his last 2 wins. And I just thought, if he's sort of 16s on Betfair, wouldn't be the worst bet in a race where the front 2 in the market drawn a little bit wide for me. So I'd throw a few quid at Going Gone.
It's interesting because this horse earlier in its career, I actually knew that they were stopping this in the maidens. Bit of inside info, and despite the SPs 15 to 11. Yeah, he wasn't off a yard. And the run at Ascot, when it was second to Stowell, it led, but it was never they weren't there to win. They were not interested in being Stowell, and obviously like what Stowell's rated. But you can see how the horse has improved and become what it has really. And Andy, I think you could have found one at a price there.
It's just, I nearly threw it in as one of the 3. He was on my sort of undercard, and I just kept looking, and I just thought, if you watched the race last time out, it was run at a funereal gallop. Well, not quite, but it wasn't a quick pace. Let's put it that way. And I'm just looking to see if I got the closing sectional was 109. The closing 3 furlong section was 109%. So coming from the back of the field was not easy on this occasion. I thought he ran a pretty decent race. And you think at the start of the year, he did win out some handicap off a mark of 92. And that was, it was a 0 to 95. Now, there's a few in here. They've been on the go a bit, and I take the point about Uke and Glen. Yeah, I mean, Jim's having a fabulous year. I wouldn't mind being a fiver behind Jim, I must admit.
He's lost weight as Jim. He used to be big.
I tell you what, I always enjoyed when I was doing the old TV with RUK. Jim was always one of the best people to talk to. He wouldn't tell you a lot, but he was always friendly. He'd always come over and have a chat, and he certainly was very kind after my operation when I saw him. So I've always got a bit of a soft spot for Jim's runners, and I say owns half of Ayrshire, but I always quite like to see him win. And the other one, a big price in that, although he is drawn wide, but he's a funny old soul, is Rashun, who ran in that clown race last time out. And you're just never quite sure about him. He's still with Ian Williams, isn't he? Another excellent trainer, really, really good. He'd be one of the. If I was lucky enough to own a horse and say where I put it, Ian Williams would be certainly on my list of 5 trainers. Excellent.
Indeed. Very true. John, have you any thoughts in this?
Yeah, I thought Golden Flame had every chance of getting a proper softie in this.
Okay.
There's very little pace on. He's drawn 4. I think Apzini is probably an excellent booking.
What, the drunk?
Yeah.
Is that his new name?
You want
he's the drunk,
relaxed, and not transmitting fear to the horse through friends. And, once we've poured him into the saddle, I think, I think this horse definitely has a performance in it off this sort of rating. Haydock can lend itself to horse getting a softie and being very hard to peg back on decent ground in that straight. I think 14-1's big, you know what I mean? You're definitely going to be able to trade out about 60s, I'd say.
Well, that's been, John makes an interesting point there, because that's been very much, was it yesterday, 5 of the, on the round course, I think there were 5 of the 6 winners certainly were up in the van all the way. I think 2 or 3 made all. Yeah, and it looked that way again today, although you're obviously on a different straight turning into the track because they're using the stand side track. But if they get rolling off the front there, I mean, any time when Richard Kingscote was riding, I mean, he used to ride Haydock so well. I used to think if they just give him a free run in front, what are you doing, lads? Because he just used to ride them to sleep. And as I say, Atzini might be able to do the same on Golden Flame, but it's certainly the course has been riding like that. But we don't know if we're going to get any precipitation yet.
Good stuff, gentlemen. Atzini's the drunk because when he goes back from the races, he has a driver, and he if he has a winner, he opens a bottle of champagne and drinks that on the way home.
Well, if he doesn't have a winner, then
probably still drinks it.
He's on the brown ale then, John.
Yeah, bit of Nuki Brown, John. If he's at Newcastle, bit of Blue Star.
Great.
Right, 3:30, the big one, the big Sprint Cup. Obviously, listeners will know. Very sweet. I'm very sweet on Rohan. I would have preferred a headwind. It's not a headwind tomorrow. It's behind them slightly.
As well, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, Holly's not obviously after she messed up at Newbury. The huge move. The horse shaped the best in the Morris de Geese for me.
Happening again, can't you, Lee? Because there's going to be
they're
going to go absolutely fucking mental here.
Yeah, I've had my bet anti-post at 16s. I'm not pressing up just for the reasons that if there'd have been a 14-mile-an-hour headwind, which you usually get at Haydock, because if it blows from the west, you get the headwind at Haydock, and then obviously they blast off, and then the ones getting the cover have all the thing. But it's blowing from sort of the east side tomorrow, so I'm not confident. Thoughts, chaps?
Well, tons of pace, isn't there? It's the biggest. Well, it's the first time we've had a full field since 2014. Tons of pace everywhere. You can't be sure about the bias, if there is any, because you're on a completely new track. Yep. If anything, I'd want something coming from off the pace. There are, I think, 3 of my sort of horses that I've followed off various cliffs in this, although maybe not. One of them is Rohan, so I've taken your advice, Lee, some while ago, and I am in with him. And the other 2 I've got to back are Harry 3 who I spotted earlier in the year, won that York
Yes.
race. I didn't really feel he got the run of the race last time out, and I still think he's a decent animal, and I'm not letting him go at sort of 20-1 plus on Betfair. And the other one I just should have won the other week was Great Ambassador. Not quite sure why they're running him here, because I think he's got a great chance in something like the Air, maybe the Portland, but certainly the Air Gold Cup. But I'm going to have a few quid on him as well. But it's just as John said, it's a race where they're going to go off, a million, isn't it? And you could get all sorts of pace collapses here. But I just play 3 at I have played Rohan, and I'm just going to throw a few quid at Harry 3 and Great Ambassador, just because I like them as horses, basically, and sometimes you just have to do that. But no strong opinion.
Indeed. John?
Where's Perfect Power?
Don't know.
Right, because there's one in here that ran Perfect Power to half a length in a Group 1 last September. Castle Star. Ritual hold-up sprinter. It's debatable whether he is actually a 111 horse, possibly. But given the propensity for a pace collapse here, and the fact that Ronan Whalen will drop this one in, and he will finish off, I think 28-1 is a bit bonkers.
38 on Betfair at the moment. I think Kevin Blake gave this one a pretty decent shout as well. Castle Star.
Yeah, I mean, what do we think? I mean, like I said, Haydock, like as a track on the straight course, six especially, not necessarily the 5, but when the wind blows from the west, that's when you get horses blasting off and horses getting cover, come there travelling lovely. And I just think though, with the wind switch tomorrow, like I say, it's not exactly in the right direction, and that'd be a worry.
I'm guessing the theory on the fact that there's about 68 blasters in this. So we're not goosed. So we're not goosed on Rohan then. So we've got a chance. No, it's not so much that. I mean, I've had a bit on Rohan, but slightly better. I mean, the way it's going in the market, probably the same price where I backed him at the way I think they're going. I think there's 5 in here that are going to go like absolute toe-horned bastards. And that's Art Power, Brad the Brave, Naval Crown, Yabawi Legend, and possibly Flaming Rib. With Emratiana pressing up as well. Kadane's quite handy. Minzal's going to be on their shores. I think this is going to be an absolute burn-up. And I don't think it lends itself to something coming from off the pace. I think Ronan Whalen would have been a lovely jockey to have on Rohan, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not going to let that run loose, because I think it'd be a massive egg on face if he gets the wrong one again.
Good stuff.
I just think Ollie will get a bit giddy and look to be in front of the furlong pole instead of on the jamstick.
Yeah. We've covered Haydock. On to the other meetings, which are Kempton and Ascot. 205 race, John's, the September state, John as a tip third realm, which he made a good case for, and I kind of like that also. Jubayon is obviously the right favourite. I think the all-weather will suit him fine by Pride of Dubai, an Australian sire. Don't see any issues on the all-weather. But I do share John's concerns that, he's had 2 hard races, really, and this clearly is an afterthought, because they're not thinking, right, let's run in the Sky Bet against Sabusca, then let's run in the Juddmonte against Baid. And
you said Leopardstown was a logical pick for this one, wouldn't you? Because chances are they'd be dig. Not that far off the very top bracket. I mean, somebody's farm last year suggests he could nearly win an Irish champion. And yet here we are pissing about over 12 in this, and I don't know. I mean, why? Come on.
Indeed. Andy?
I thought it was a decent. I think it's actually for a Group 3. It's actually a deep race, isn't it?
It is.
But
it is.
Yeah, I've no strong opinion on it, really. Wouldn't back Dubai on, a bit too short for me, but could see him winning, and respect John's views on the rest of the race. But it's Kempton, and quite frankly for me, they could switch this whole meeting back onto the hurdles course and run it on turf. There you go.
Yeah, good old Kempton on the turf back in the day. I used to love that.
Remember the old Jubilee course there as well?
Yes.
Start right down the thing. I mean, I'm old enough to remember that. I still think it's a great shame that there's no. I really don't see what's stopping them running some races on the hurdles course in the summer.
No, I know. It's a shame. It's a real shame. The turf course at Kempton, I really used to enjoy. And
I wish the configuration of the old track and made all of it temperature.
Yeah, but spray it green, John.
Spray it green, yeah.
Have the Jubilee course, but have it all weather.
Bring back the fibre sand, I say. Make it fibre sand. There you go. That's better.
We're running short of time. So 240 Kempton, the London Mile Series final. This was I couldn't spot a horse well handicapped. I just literally looked through them all and just went, what do you guys think?
The only little angle I would give you is that Mr. Bin Sarur has got a very, very good record when he sticks the old cheeky pieces on his any of his horses first time, and he's done that with First View. So that would be my little angle into. It's got cheek pieces on first time. It's actually very good with headgear all round. But like you, I couldn't really spot anything. I think the draw's fine in 7. The boy on top's fine, but like you, I wouldn't be going overboard. If there was one that I thought was slightly overpriced, it was Fantasy Believer with Mr. Kingscote on board. But it wouldn't be my race, and quite frankly, I can leave Kempton alone on the all-weather.
Yep, John.
Cock watches arse out the 3 box. 72 days off, coming back to this. Good apprentice belt. Probably been tied up for it.
Yeah. I can't knock anything. If anyone said to me anything in this, I wouldn't knock it, because I genuinely don't think there's anything that's well handicapped or can. It's whatever gets the run of the race for me in that. So. Okay, we're going to move on to the last meeting, which is the 310 at Ascot and 345. Obviously, I've tipped in these, so I'm sitting out firmly, gentlemen. Andy's also tipped in the 345. So we'll go 310, which is fresh as 5-1 fav. No, Andy, you've tipped in the 310.
I did the 310. Yeah, I mean, I could back all sorts of horses in here, but I take your point on board about. The one that you've tipped up, which is the same escapes me for a minute. Shining Blue, make good case for that. Documenting, I think he just runs the course well, and there's a whole heap of others here, but I just, I think the higher draws. I'd favour the higher draws over the lower, but it's a little bit of a crapshoot, isn't it? Yeah.
John, thoughts here?
That Ropey Guest might run well at a price, but don't know if I'm opinion really.
You love the Margesson. You love the Margesson on the straight course.
Margesson on the straight course at Ascot. I know. He can't
Jimmy Quinn, I'll win on it next time if he gets beat.
He probably will. The only thing I've never known anybody belt Jimmy a second time.
John, if Ropey Guest fucks me for thousands tomorrow, I'm going to be seething at you.
It'll do my trebling once I found out what your first one was.
Yeah, right. So we know we're at in 310, 345. Then the Heritage Handicap, very confident selection for me for Layakel. So I'm going to leave this to you two to give me some alternatives to possibly Layakel.
Mandobi would be mine.
Stole one-handed. You know the 1.5 miles.
Yeah, I know. Don't really like it. Yeah, 1.5 miles, stall 1. Don't like that draw particularly. You might be able to overcome it, but I doubt it. It wasn't a race I liked. You've got how many have you got? You've got 5 Godolphins in here, so mind your cap colours, and 4 of them are from the same stable. That usually says to me a race that I'm just nearly not getting involved with. But I admire your confidence to like your Kell, and it will be part of my Lee treble.
Yeah.
I feel emboldened to back them now after our York success.
Get your scarves out. It's not Counter Star scarves. It's not Denman scarves. It's not Ricky scarves. It's Lee scarves tomorrow when Layakel lands.
Colours would you be?
I'd just be. I'd be like opaque. Not as you can't invisible.
Beige, I think, is your colour.
I'd be putting nail varnish.
John, come on, sort me out here. Is Layakel the second coming for the shirt?
I wouldn't bet against it, to be honest.
Did you have a deep look at the race?
I had a look at the race. I came up with Layakel and possibly First Roller as a danger, so nothing really inspiring.
No.
I don't think First Roller's got potential to go on, but I don't think Layakel is the potential horse in the race.
Yeah. Sheikh Ahmed Al Maktoum.
Right. Second colours, interestingly.
Second colours. We're not even in the third. I like that. The second colours. The old second colours blasting down the straight. Yeah, I love that. Absolutely.
Make sure you get the right cap colour. Right, we're done, aren't we? All I'm going to say now is, if anybody wants to buy me a beer at Laytown on Thursday, please come and find me. I'll have a Guinness.
That's it.
My maiden visit to Laytown on Thursday. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, you enjoy that.
The lads will take him out, won't they?
Yeah. The Irish lads at York. The Irish lads that are listening, I'm sure you'll be there.
Yeah. See me out. Fast stewards. That'll be good. Now, looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll find a few winners on the sand.
Good stuff. That's all from us now on this show. We're back on Tuesday next week with the St Ledger preview. So hopefully you'll join us for that. And everything's normal from Friday onwards. So enjoy that. That's all from us. Bye for now.